So, like I was saying before, the main topic today is going to be what do you do once you graduate? A lot of students, when they go through programs like Animation Mentor, Anim School, iAnimate, the whole time you're there, you're under a very specific curriculum. You're there to learn fundamentals of animation, there to learn the body mechanics, the acting, the composition, all of these specific topics to help you progress. You are attending Q&As, you are getting your work reviewed, you have assignments. It's very structured, which is a good way to learn because you know where you're going and what you have to do. And in that process, you do learn what you have to do next. In a sense, you are given these instructions. But the main issue that I tend to see with a lot of graduates is that once they finish the program, suddenly they're on their own. Suddenly they don't have a mentor, they don't have a curriculum, they don't have these assignments that they have to do by a certain time. Which means that there's a little bit of, I guess you could say, too much freedom. It's the blank canvas effect. For anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's the effect of you have a blank canvas, what do you draw or what do you create? If you have no limitations, it's very hard. It's hard to get started. It's hard to know where do you even begin. What do you do? Do I go make something cartoony? Do I make something realistic? Do I paint? Do I draw? Do I sketch? There's too many choices. And when you graduate, that's kind of what I see a lot of people run into is oh, I'm graduated, I'm free. What do I do? Should I focus on this? Should I focus on that? Oh wait, do I have to update my demo reel? Wait, I need to apply for jobs, but am I ready to do that? And there's just so much stuff that you have to try and wrap your head around and kind of focus on that you stall out in a sense. You don't have that structured program. Now, this can apply to people who don't go to animation school. If you are self-taught, these things still apply. So regardless of where you are at your animation journey, even if you're just starting out, these things can still help. So let me check the chat here. At what age are you able to apply as an intern? I'm 23 and I think I'm too old. Honestly, I don't think there's any age cap for internships. Usually internships are based on how long ago you were in school. So usually internships, to apply for an internship, you must have been a student within the last 6 months to a year, something like that. Yeah. So Sin was 30 and got the internship. Yeah. So there is no age limit. It's a school limit, or a student limit, I guess you could say. If you've for me, I haven't been a student for 10 years, no, 9 years, something like that. There's no way I can apply for an internship unless I went back to animation school and retook some classes. Then I might be able to apply. But yeah, it's really just that student limit. So the main thing I want to talk about today is going to be four things to focus on when you are ready to enter the animation industry. Now again, this applies to anyone, but mostly it applies to graduates, people who they're ready. You've got your demo reel, you've got your shots, and what's the next step? So let's actually just dive right in. So the first thing that I highly recommend doing when you graduate, or even before you graduate, is start marketing yourself. This is going to be a tricky thing for a lot of people to get used to, because most of us are artists in some way or another. We're used to maybe posting some art and doing things like that, but not really marketing. But as animators, we are our product. So if you imagine if I was maybe working at a store and I'm trying to sell my wares, sell maybe books and stuff, I would want to market the books. I would want to show how cool they are, how good they are. In this case, I am an animator. my wares, my goods are my skills. And there's the phone. So my skills are what make me just the phone always rings as soon as there's a Q&A or a stream. It doesn't fail. So my skills are what I need to sell, what the recruiters are looking for. So I need to promote that. How do you do that? How do you start promoting your skills? Well, the first one is make a website. So this is one of those things that a lot of people tend to skip out on. They just post their work on Vimeo or YouTube. I honestly don't recommend posting your demo reels on YouTube for one simple fact, which I'll talk about in just a little bit. But usually they'll post their work on Vimeo and that's it. Now, is that bad? No, not at all. But you are missing an opportunity to promote yourself better and to make yourself easily accessible to recruiters. This is huge. You want it so that recruiters can easily find you and easily get back to you quickly. One of the best ways to do that is a website. The main reason, you can put everything you want on there. So this is my website. It's actually both Cameron and my website. We decided to just integrate them all both together, but this is my page. And you can see there's my demo reel, my experience, education, and any extra information I want. Any links to find me on LinkedIn, Vimeo, on Animation Mentor. All of this information right there for the recruiter to get to me. Now, the reason a website is better, I did see someone mention LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great one. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But the problem with LinkedIn and many other forms of websites that allow people to find you is that it's hard to search or save your page. What I mean by this is if you look at the website here, it's theprattbrothers.com bow. Now, this shouldn't be there. We're going to fix that eventually. But it's a very simple URL. And this makes it easy for people to find us. If I tell a recruiter, oh, just go to theprattbrothers.com, they'll find us. That is good. You want to keep your URL simple. And with a website, you have that full control. So what I typically recommend is you get a website, and it doesn't have to be a big complex website, or you don't have to code it all yourself. Something like WordPress, or there's all sorts of different, like I think Squarebox or something like that. Like these free domains or site builders that you can access that will let you post your work and create a simple website. Yeah, Wix, that's a good one. And you can build a website and there you go. Now, you can do that for free, and that's totally great. But what I do recommend is actually buying the domain name. So the domain name is the actual URL. So for example, Cameron and I bought theprattbrothers.com. This way, when people search that, you can redirect whatever site you, or whatever page you create, even if it's a WordPress blog. So it would be like theprattbrothers.com/WordPress, or theprattbrothers.com.wordpress.com. Long URL, not very easy to type in. If I buy the domain theprattbrothers.com, I can redirect it right to that. It's nice and simple. So get a website, buy a domain name. Yeah, so roger.biz. Yeah, that's super easy. And if you can find that, don't go for a really complex one like roger123._something.biz. Like that would be, no one wants to type that in. No one's going to remember it. But roger.biz, yeah, that's super easy. You put that on your business card or your any contact information, easy to find. How much does it cost for a domain? It really depends. Usually not that much. Like I think, if I remember correctly, it's like for Cameron and I, it was like $20 a year or something like that. Something super inexpensive. So even that, I think that might be too high. I forget the exact price. Cameron was the one who bought it all. So it's not that expensive. Now, some of them will be more expensive than others, but you can go with a .com, you can go with a .biz, whatever works best, as long as it's simple. I used this when I was young. It's free, and you end up with something like domain name.tk. Yeah, so there you go. So the domain name is going to be helpful. And is this absolutely necessary? No. I know a lot of animators who don't make their own website. Don't do that. But if you're going to be starting out, this is a great way to promote your work, to show that you are a presence in the animation industry and not just a person passing through, if that makes sense. And in terms of a website, it doesn't have to be complex. You don't need a ton of extra information. So for example, on my page, demo reel, and then basically my resume, in a sense. Very simple resume. That's it. So let's take a look at a few other animators. So here's Sin's website. Super clean and easy. Look at that. Animator, name, a little bit about them, links to their work. Done. Super nice. That's it. Here's Robert Morrison, who worked on God of War. He was actually a classmate of mine, which is weird to think about that. I was in a class with this guy. He's an awesome animator and artist. But it's his reel, and he's got 2 reels here. And once again, his resume. That's it. Nicole Hare. This was one of my teachers, one of my mentors when I was a student. Same thing. You've got links to access her, so her LinkedIn. There's this hire me button, which is awesome. Another feature I love is she put this remote ready icon there. That's great, especially in today's climate. It's good to kind of advertise that, yeah, you are ready to work remotely if you have to. You've got the equipment on site. And once again, her resume. Now, she's got an extensive resume, so hers is a little bit bigger than the others, but once again, reels, everything right there for people to look at. That's all you need, and she uses Zerply. Now, you'll notice her URL is zerply.com/Nicole Hare. Not the greatest URL there. But if you do a search for NicoleHare.com, it redirects to this page. So if you just type in NicoleHare.com, that will lead you here. She has a domain that redirects to this. So even though technically the URL is not super clean, on her business cards and all of her contact information, she can still use that nice simple one that redirects right to her page. So yeah. Does it have to be complex? No. You actually don't want it to be complex. The more complex a website is, the less likely people are going to check out what you want them to check out. They're going to start bouncing around and miss your content. You want to keep it simple. Who you are, what you do, your work, and your resume. There you go. So creating a website, it's just a good marketing thing because you can put it on anything. You can put it on your business cards, all of that, and it's very easy for people to access. The problem with LinkedIn, which is also the next thing we'll talk about here, LinkedIn is a wonderful site. You guys should join it. It's going to give you a lot of cool ways of applying for jobs, of looking for jobs, of getting in contact with recruiters, and all of this kind of stuff. It is useful. But this shouldn't be your only way to get social kind of presence online, because it's hard to market this in terms of business cards and in terms of contacts. For example, if I was to go to my page here on LinkedIn, this is the URL, linkedin.com/in/bprattanimation. That's a long thing to put on your business card compared to thepratbrothers.com. Just that. Done. So it's they both have different purposes. A website is there to create a drop page. Yeah, I need to update my LinkedIn. I haven't updated it in forever. It is so old. And that image, yeah, it's totally up to date. Orange hair, yeah. Uh yeah, I've been working at AM for, yeah, does it say only 4 years? Oh, 7 years. Okay. Yeah, I think that's still actually out of date. I've been technically working for 9 years. So yeah. Oh yeah, at the top. You're right. I never updated the bio. But yeah, that's way out of date. So keep things updated. But this is great for the second step. Once they see your reel, they see your information, they can get into here and really get all your contact information, learn more about you. It's just hard to market this in terms of business cards and things like that. So, with that said, first thing you should do, and once again, you can do this right now as a student. Make a LinkedIn page. That's easy, it's free. Put in your information, and then create a website. Doesn't have to be complex. Just a simple website that you can promote your stuff, and make sure you have a URL, a domain name that is nice and simple, easy to find. So that's going to be number one. Website and LinkedIn. Now, I did see a question up above here regarding YouTube and Vimeo, which I had mentioned earlier. So the reason I don't recommend YouTube for demo reels is that YouTube doesn't allow you to update a link. So what I mean by this is, if I post my reel on YouTube and then 6 months later I go, ooh, I need to update my reel. I've got a new shot. Okay, make a new reel, put it all together, and let's upload it. If I'm using YouTube, I have to upload it as a new video, which means that I'm going to have a new URL, which means that on all of my websites, all of the things that have my reel, my business cards, if I have a link to that on there, that link doesn't work anymore. That's posting to my old reel. I needed to post to my new reel. So now I have to go through everything and re-update it, or reprint things if I've printed out the location to my reel. That's a pain. And it makes it hard to keep everything up to date very cleanly and efficiently. And it makes it so that sometimes recruiters will find your old reel instead of your new one, which is another pain. With Vimeo, let's say same situation. I make my reel, okay, great. 6 months later, ooh, I've got a new shot to put on my reel. Let's update it. You can just go to that video on Vimeo, the original reel, and update the video. Replace it with the new one, which means the URL is exactly the same, everything is exactly the same, and you're done. You've got a new updated reel. If you've already sent out a resume and the recruiter checks out that resume with that old reel link in there, it's now the new reel link, which means that you're always up to date. You're always making sure that recruiters have all of the most up-to-date stuff from you, and you're not having to constantly think, okay, did I send them the old link or the new one? Did I send them the old link or the new one? Oh wait, on my website, what link is it? None of that. It's just the newest link all the time. It makes it much easier to keep track of things, much easier to keep yourself, again, up to date. So for that reason alone, I much prefer Vimeo, and I recommend Vimeo for demo reels. For other videos, YouTube is great. If you're doing like just uploading animations that you've done, things like that, yeah, I prefer YouTube. I'm not a fan of Vimeo's interface for browsing videos. It's not super intuitive to me. But for demo reels, Vimeo will be a much better resource. Now, let's see here. I did see a couple of other questions. Let me just double check that I don't miss anything before I move on to the next one here. Yeah, and like Sin mentioned, you don't need much on the website. You can have it linked to Vimeo. Yeah, so for example here, it's just links. You don't need anything more than that. You don't even have to embed the video on there. I personally would recommend embedding the video. Just that's a personal preference of mine, because it lets the recruiter just play the thing right away, but it's not necessary. Something like this is just as good. It gives all the links right there. No scrolling. Like, I don't have to scroll anything. It's right there. It'll work well on my phone. Perfect. So simplicity is key here. Let's see. Oh, let's see. Even if you're not planning on going back to it, show it to Bo. He'll give more notes that you can be taking into account when you're animating another shot, so you can prevent the mistakes. Oh yeah, if you have anything you wanted to share, definitely feel free to post it. And that goes for everyone. Let's see. Okay, so I might express myself wrong. I meant it's done, even though we think there's still a lot to do. Okay, let me double check that here. Oh, nice. This is your animation. Nice. Yeah, that's feeling way better already. Yeah, the balance feels much better at the end there. That's cool. And I like the new camera angle. That works really great. Well done. Gotta add a like. Let's see. Blaze the Animator. What do you prefer for professional work? YouTube or Vimeo? Okay, Vimeo. Definitely Vimeo. And okay, cool. So does Recruiter look for people in Instagram? Yes. So this is the next thing. Post on social media. Now, I will admit right now, I am the worst at that. I am terrible at social media. I don't know what it is. I'm just so bad at posting anything, like on Twitter, on Instagram, anything like that. So I shouldn't be the one like, oh, post it, it's gonna be great. You should. If you make a new demo reel, post it on Twitter, post it on Instagram, post it on things like that. If you do any artwork, post it on there. Show that you're active in the community. Be a positive influence. Now this goes into another thing. We'll call it point 2, but it's kind of a separate topic. When we are dealing with social media, this goes with anything. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, anything like that, anything publicly available. Be very careful how you post. And this goes for everyone, regardless of what stage you're at in your animation career. Recruiters check those. Recruiters look at your social media, not because they're trying to spy on you and trying to like find out all your secrets. No, they're just trying to figure out if you're going to be a good addition to the team. Part of a recruiter's job is finding animators who will work well with other animators and other staff in the studio. So if they go to your Twitter, for example, and find out that you are just bashing on every film that you watch, and you like, maybe the new Toy Story came out and oh my god, this is the worst Toy Story ever, the animators didn't know what they're doing, oh, it's terrible, it sucks. Is that someone they want on their team? Someone who will like be so vocally negative against something that other animators have worked on or other studios have worked on? That doesn't put you in a good light for a recruiter. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to censor yourself either. I am a huge... what would be the right term here? I don't like it when people have to censor themselves. If you have an opinion, you have a right to that opinion. But you have to word it properly. Be constructive about your opinion. If you don't like something, don't just bash it. Don't just hate on it for the sake of hating on it. Be positive. Put in a compliment sandwich. Say something that you like. Give a constructive criticism. End with something that you like. That is going to show that you are a helpful part of the community and not just a negative part of the community. So be positive. Now, again, doesn't mean you should be happy and like butterflies and rainbows all the time. No, just be overall a positive influence. It makes a huge difference because people want to work with positive people. People want to work with someone that adds to the workplace instead of pulling everyone down. So just be careful what you post and how you post it. Now, there's a question here. They're doing the murder test. Yeah, when they're looking at the social media, that's another. It's like just double checking what kind of person are we hiring here. Let's see what they post. That's basically what it is. Now, is it possible to get a job in Canada without a degree? Yes. A lot of times, studios can sponsor you for a visa. There's a lot of different visa options that you can apply to the government for. Personally, I'm not that familiar with like Canadian visas if you're coming into Canada because I'm in Canada, so I've never had to look for one. But there's all sorts of different kinds that you can get to work in Canada. Now, the degree of difficulty to get it changes a lot depending on the visa and what studio you're applying to and where you're applying. For example, is it in Vancouver? Is it in Montreal? Is it Manitoba? It can be very tricky, but it is definitely possible. So, yeah, social media, definitely do that. Twitter, Instagram, usually those are kind of the big two. And then like Facebook, meh. I don't use Facebook at all personally, and I don't know of any recruiters or anything that look on Facebook other than for the like quick social media. Oh, what kind of person is this? But even then, it's mostly Twitter and Instagram. So, ooh, yes, I should take a sip of water. Thank you for the reminder. So, that's going to be the first one. Market yourself. Website, LinkedIn, social media. And again, be positive on there. I love it when people can have a whole conversation just in emotes. It's wonderful. So the next thing that a lot of people run into when they first start out is you've marketed yourself, you are ready to apply. Where do you apply? Well, this is where you just have to do a lot of searching and looking online. Going to studio websites like Pixar, Disney, they'll have their application forms on there. You can also do a search for sites like this one here, Game Sutra, or Gamma Sutra, I should say. This is a job board, which is basically you search for the job you want, and it'll post a listing of any positions in there. There's a whole bunch of these types of websites for searching jobs, and specifically animation jobs. So I would recommend just looking for these kind of hubs, and these will help you find the smaller opportunities that you might not have thought of. The small little studios that don't really have much social media to them, where it's like, oh, as soon as they post, everyone hears about it. But you can find a lot of positions here. So for example, there's PlayStation that you could see down here. There were all sorts of different, Insomniac, Activision, all of that. So if you're looking for things, this is a good place to look. And there's all sorts of websites like this. Now, I'm not going to post a whole bunch of them because it really depends on where you live. If you're, for example, in Europe, there's going to be a whole different list of websites for that compared to Canada, compared to the US, compared to anywhere else. So find these job boards. They can be very, very helpful. Now, is starting in gaming animation help or hinder if you're trying to get into features? It's just going to help. Honestly, doing any animation is going to help. It's never going to hinder. Well, let me put it this way. The only time a job is going to hinder you in your goal of animation is if the job is just a bad job. But that applies to anything. So, for example, if I apply to a studio and I get hired, yay, great. And then for some reason, they just put me in a back corner, and all I'm doing all day is animating boxes falling. I don't know. It's just a box falls there. And then that's my whole career, is animating box falling. I'm not getting better at any character animation skill. I'm not getting better at anything else other than animating boxes. That's not useful to me as an animator. That's not helpful. So that's the only time it's negative, is if the studio itself is a bad studio. If you're working in games, you're still animating characters. You're animating movement. That all applies to feature animation. And honestly, gaming animation and feature animation is just getting closer and closer and closer nowadays in terms of quality. Like if you've played Ghost of Tsushima, boy, I did not pronounce that right, or God of War or something like that, those animations are amazing quality animation. So yeah, don't worry about it hindering you in any way. In many ways, I actually recommend people jump into gaming, or like keep that open as an option, because there's a lot more opportunities, and in gaming you tend to have a little bit more control over things compared to feature. That's kind of a generalization, but don't discount it. And I know a lot of people who never wanted to do gaming, and now gaming is what they want to do for the rest of their career. It's just so much fun. Let's see, are you going to post examples of PF forms? PF? Do you mean like job search forms here? I'm not going to post them because it really depends on where you live. So there's like, if you're in Canada, there's a whole bunch of sites for that. If you're in the US, there's a whole bunch of sites for that. So I would just recommend Googling it, basically. For example, if you want to get a job in Canada, search for the Canadian sites. If you're going to get a job in the US, search for that. If you're going to get a job in the UK or like Europe or anything like that, search for those, and you're going to be able to find those job boards. So find job boards. This is going to help you find those niche little jobs that you don't normally hear about. It gives you more opportunities. Now, kind of related to that, and kind of going into the next thing on our list, is know your rate. So when you apply to a job, how much should you get paid? And this is a very important question, because once again, the industry is not unicorns and rainbows. As much as we are working in animation and it's cartoons and it's games and like all of this cool stuff, it is not rainbows and unicorns. It is a business. When you are going into a business, once again, think of yourself, you are the product here. You are selling your skills to the studio, and they're going to use your skills to make a product which makes them money. It's a business, which means that you have to know what you are worth. That's very tricky because it changes all the time. Oh, there you go. You see, I should have just posted Sin's site. Sin has all the resources. For anyone who doesn't know, definitely check out this website, sinmusi.com. Look at all of these resources. There you go. Right there. He has it all for you. If you want to learn anything, go to this website. It is amazing. Just so good. I actually have it like pinned on my browser all the time, just because it's fun to reference back to. So again, knowing your rate. How do you know your rate? Because it changes. It changes on where you currently live. It changes on where you are working. So for example, a job in San Francisco the base rate is going to have to be much higher than a job in Manitoba, Canada, because the cost of living is going to be way higher in San Francisco. To rent an apartment there, if I rent an apartment in San Francisco, that would be the same cost as buying a house here and a big house here and owning like acres of land for the same cost. or I could stay in San Francisco in a one-room apartment. Yay. So your cost of living is hugely different. The cost of food is different. Are you paying a mortgage? All of this kind of stuff. So, what do you do to figure that out? Well, the first thing I recommend is going to glassdoor.com. Now, since I'm in Canada, it's glassdoor.ca, but same thing. And this is a site that basically lists studios. It also has a job board, which is really cool if you're looking for jobs. And it shows you some rates. So for example, let's say I wanted to work at PUBG San Ramon right here. Well, here's a description of the job, and oh, look at that, salary. Here's the average salary of the animators who work at that studio. Nice. Now, if I apply there and they suddenly offer me $30,000 to work there, I can go, wait, whoa. That average is a little low. Now, maybe that's correct because this is the average of animators. Some animators, for example, senior animators. Oh yeah, share my screen. What? I've been talking about all these sites and showing things. I haven't even been sharing my screen. Oh boy. See, this is what happens when you don't sleep. So right here, glassdoor.ca. So right there. So you got the job description, salary. Done. So you've got that. Great. Now, just kind of rewinding. Here's Sin's website, sinuc.com. Check this out. It is amazing. What else did I talk about? I think, yeah, Gamma Sutra right there. That's the other job board. Yeah, I think that's the main thing we talked about. But Glassdoor. Glassdoor is super helpful because it actually shows you the base salary for things. So let's say we want Ubisoft lead animator. Ooh. And of course it's not gonna open it up here. Let me refresh. So you can just search through there and find positions and hopefully find the wages. There we go. So lead animator. Well, there we go. So right here we can see some of them. We'd probably have to see all of them, but we can see what the average wages are here. Okay. Get an idea of where we would sit in that wage summary. That is super helpful because it gives you a place to start from. You're not just jumping into a studio and they give you a number and you go, okay, I have no idea. It gives you ammunition, I guess you could say. Another great website is PayScale. This is kind of a similar thing where you can see what is the average that people make. Now, keep in mind that that changes depending on where you live. Again, an animator in Manitoba is going to be paid a lot less than an animator in San Francisco, but we're also going to have to pay a lot less in like cost of living, which means I might actually even make more money. So sites like this, really helpful. Find out what you're worth and put that number down. Now, this is something I've shared before, but another thing that can help with this is the freelance rate calculator. This is a Google Doc. I highly recommend everyone save this. To save this, you just go to File here, and then go to, where is it? Make a copy right there. And then you can make a copy for yourself and edit it however you want. But this page here, which was created by @Beeves on Twitter, is basically a document that you can find out what you need to charge in order to live comfortably and live properly, to cover all of your food, your rent, your utilities, your taxes, your insurance, especially if you're working freelance, suddenly you don't have benefits. You don't get dental and healthcare. You have to pay for all of that out of pocket if you're working freelance or as a contractor sometimes. So you need to think of those. You need to think of saving money because you need to have savings in there. Don't just charge your base minimum wage because, well, that's fine. If you're just living check to check, that's not correct. You need to be saving money. You've got this skill as an animator. An animator is not a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not a job that anyone can do. It is a specialty field. You've trained a long time, many years for most cases, to do this job, which means that you shouldn't just be paid the bare minimum. Your skill set is one that has been built up and should be paid fairly for it. Also keep in mind that the company is making money off of you, so you should be, again, paid fairly. So this document helps you figure that out. This document will help you know what is a fair rate to charge people and what you cannot go below. That's the important thing. There's going to be a rate here where if you go below that, well, suddenly you can't make your payments. Suddenly you can't pay for your mortgage or your rent or your car payments, things like that. Do not go below that limit. So, hugely helpful. So once you know your rate, suddenly you're able to apply for jobs much more clearly, and you have more ammunition on your side so that you don't get put into a position where you accept a job that doesn't pay you fairly. That is very good. So so far we've got create a website, LinkedIn, social media, and then know your rate. Also, look at job boards. Those will help you find out where jobs are available, where you can look for them. Those 4 main topics there, those are going to help you get into the industry faster. And it might not seem like a lot, but by promoting yourself correctly, again, social media, good website, what it does is it makes it easier for companies to find you and to keep track of you. If you just have a Vimeo reel and that's it, and then you send it in to a studio and then you disappear from the face of the earth and just kind of are unavailable online for them to find you, does it mean you're not going to get jobs? No. But it makes it hard for recruiters who maybe they see your reel and they go, you know, this person's really talented. We don't really have a position yet, or we found someone else that we really like, but you know, I really like this person. Let's keep tabs on them. And this happens way more than you'd think, where studios will just go, you know, let's put them in the, like, that 1 day pile. And if they are seeing that you are active online, that you're a positive influence online, that you update your reel regularly, they will come to you eventually. And the more you do this, the more work you get eventually. This creates a snowball effect where suddenly you will reach a point later in your career that you might not need to apply for jobs. Companies will be coming to you based on your standing online to find you and hire you. I know of many of my mentors, the people who taught me, that's what their careers are right now. They don't apply for jobs. Jobs come to them because they've built up this wonderful kind of network. So doing this, it's not just to help you get a job now, it's going to help get you jobs for the rest of your career. Now, a key to that is your network. Who do you know? Now, this does not mean like knowing the brother of the owner of a company, not that kind of who do you know. This is more having a good network of friends. So this is where schools like Animation Mentor are hugely helpful, where you go through and you build a network of fellow animators who are going into the industry. And that network of animators is going to help you get jobs. They're going to go out into all sorts of areas in the industry, and then if they're looking for an animator, you might get a call one day from a friend who you went to school with, and they'll go, "Hey, we're looking for an animator. Are you looking for a job?" "Sure." And you start getting jobs all over the place. It's hugely helpful. That's how I got most of my freelance jobs, was someone I know. A lot of job opportunities that I had to pass up, unfortunately, were from people I know who just went, "Hey, we're hiring. You looking for a job? Sorry, not right now." "Okay, sure. Do you know anyone who would be looking for this?" And then I pass it on to someone else. And we have this network of people that we just kind of pass jobs to. That's hugely helpful because, again, studios are looking for people who will work well with their team. And who better to find someone who will work well for the team than someone on the team? So, for example, if I'm looking for a job and my lead animator, the recruiter, goes, "Hey, do you know anyone? We're trying to fill a position. Do you know anyone who would work well with the team?" I would go, "Oh yeah, I know a few people that I'd love to work with." And then I go to my network and go, "Hey, Sin, are you looking for a job? Great, come on." And then there you go. And this is helpful for the recruiters because now they know that they're getting someone who will work well with the team. It doesn't guarantee the person that job right away. It helps the recruiter because they know they're getting someone who has been vouched for, who could work well with the team, and they don't have to put out an ad and get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of applications that they have to sort through and hope that they get someone who works well with the team. So it's being a positive influence in the industry, being someone that people want to work with. So by doing that, by doing all of this, it's not going to guarantee you a job. It's not like, "Well, I do this, I finish my checklist, done, haha, I am ready for the industry and I'm gonna get a job." No. But it prepares you for that continual job process. And it is one of those things that as animators we kind of have to do. Once again, we have to market ourselves and we have to be proactive about finding work. So as you are going into the industry, the worst thing you can do, especially if you're graduating from animation school or just kind of entering it on your own, is, okay, jump in, post my reel, and then sit back and wait. And Bat FPS, thank you so much for the subscription. Oh man, thank you. Also, I noticed that we were getting a few subs, but I got lost in the demo. So I think it was Isaac, Vibe, Zap, Nick, and Flo. Thank you so much for the follows. I really appreciate that. Mario, yes, got to do the Mario. Can I do a demo on Bifrost Graph, the new node editor for Bifrost? I haven't used Bifrost in a long time, so I'd have to study up on it, but I could try if I get some free time. I do like using Bifrost. I just haven't used it in a while. I don't think I've used the new graph, actually. So, the last thing that you want to do when you're entering the industry is just sit back and let it happen. You have to be proactive. And once you get your job, you have to be proactive. You can't just sit there and let it well, how to put it, You don't want to you want to take control of your career. You need to keep pushing forward. Once you're working at a job, prepare for the next one. Even if you're working at a studio, you never know how long your contract will last. So, keep updating your demo reel. Keep posting stuff on social media. Be active, be positive. All of that stuff. Where do you find that Mario clip? I just found it online. It's from the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, which if anyone hasn't watched it, I definitely recommend. It's kind of fun. It's definitely interesting. That and the Legend of Zelda animated series, which a lot of people don't like, but Cameron and I we really love them for some reason. And Maria, thank you so much. I'll take a sip. So, be active with your work. Now, the last tip that I have for students entering the animation industry, and this is going to be the hardest one in many ways because it never ends, is excuse me, choked on the water there. Oh no, the water has betrayed me. Update your demo reel and keep updating your demo reel. Now, again, I'm not one who should talk about this because my reel is like ancient and covered in cobwebs and dust. It is so bad and outdated. But if you are looking for jobs, update your reel. Even if you're not getting a job right away, keep updating your reel. So, for example, let's say I'm a new student. I jump into the industry. Great, submit my reel all over the place. Yeah. The next thing I do, if I've got all my LinkedIn and website and all of that done, work on my reel. Try to find the thing that is the least good on my reel. See if I can make it better. Make a new shot. What am I missing on my reel? Okay, maybe I don't have creature animation. Let's add some of that. Okay, maybe I don't have a subtle acting shot. Let's add that in there. Now, I did a whole talk on that before, which should still be up on the Twitch, on the VOD, about updating your reel and going through that properly so that you're properly updating and not just replacing shots randomly and hoping for the best. But updating that reel, keeping it current, and always progressing your skills. That's going to be very helpful for a recruiter. One of the worst things that you can do in terms of applying for jobs is having the same reel all the time. So usually for most reels, you want to have an update for it at least every 6 months. At least. If you can go a little faster, that would be great, but every 6 months is pretty good. So for example, let's say I'm again fresh out of animation school. Yeah, I've got my reel. Let's submit it to Disney. Yeah. No reply. Dang it. Oh, but 6 months later, they've got a new opening. Yes. My chance to shine again. Send the same reel over to them again. Yay, let's wait. No reply. Oh, great. Dang it. 8 months later, a new position opens. Yes, post it again. Oh, this is going to be my chance. Every time I send it and there's no change, how can I expect them to have a different decision if they're just seeing the same work over and over? What's going to be different? If they didn't choose me the first time, why would they choose me the second time or the third time if my reel is exactly the same? Not just that, what am I doing in all of this time? Like, from a recruiter's perspective, if they see the same reel come in and it's been a year or a year and a half between the last few times that they've seen it, and it's exactly the same, that just tells the recruiter that you're not doing anything, that you're not progressing your skills, that you're not trying to improve yourself. That's not something they want in an animator. And this is the tricky part, because maybe you're already working. So for example, one of the reasons why I haven't updated my reel is I'm working. I don't need to update my reel. Does that mean I shouldn't? No. Because now, let's say, for some reason, I lose my job. Maybe next month. For some reason, I just lost my job. Downsize, something, whatever. Oh, great, now I have to apply for jobs again. my reel is so ancient, I have to rebuild the whole thing from scratch. But I need a job in the next month or two, or else I'm not going to be able to pay my bills. Oops. That's not a good situation to be in. So even though you are working, even though you are at a studio, you want to keep updating your reel. Now, it'll reach a point where you work on enough projects that those projects start funneling into your demo reel, which is nice because then you actually get proper projects on your reel that you can use. But until that happens, you are responsible for keeping your reel up to date, especially when you first jump into the industry. Keep in mind that, let's say I get hired right out of school, and I work on a project for maybe 6 months. Maybe I got hired on a Disney film, who knows? Right away. I got really lucky. Let's actually go full screen, please. I got really lucky. Yeah, Disney film. Right out of the gate. 6 months of work, I did some really awesome shots on there. But films don't come out right away. Films take a long time to finish. So maybe I worked on that film for 6 months and then they let me go and they didn't need me anymore. But it's going to be another year and a half before the film actually comes out in theaters. Oops. I can't use any of the work that I did at Disney on my reel until that film is released. Oops. What do I do? Now I reapply to the studios that I applied to before, and my reel is exactly the same because I never updated it. So, when you first jump into the industry, you need to keep working on your reel. Even if you get a job, keep working on your reel. The other thing to keep in mind when you do get a job is, in most cases, like the Disney scenario, that was like a once in a lifetime opportunity scenario. The normal scenario is that maybe I'll get hired by Disney. Great. But I'm a student. I just graduated. What position am I going to get at Disney? I'm not going to be a supervising animator or lead animator. I'm not going to be doing cool shots. I'm going to be a fix animator or a crowd animator. I might just be doing the tiny shots that are like a character going, huh? And then that's it. That's the whole thing. Like 12 frames of a character turning their head. I might be animating a character that's way back there in the background that's all blurred in the final film and no one gets to see. Which means even if I do get those shots, they're not going to be worth putting on my reel because they're going to be the shots that no one else would do. Which is not a bad thing because that's, when you start a studio, that's the shots you get so that they can train you. But I need to work on my reel so that if I get let go, I can still progress. You need to keep your work up. For films that aren't released yet, can you still put it on your reel and password protect it? It depends on the studio. Some studios will say no, they will not give it to you until the film is released. Others have no problem as long as you password protect it. It really depends. I know some animators, and I fell into this as well, where I did some work, freelance work, and the project kind of got shelved, and I'm never going to see that work ever again because I don't own the rights to it. The studio does, and it's just under lock and key. That can happen too, and that goes with anything creative. I know someone who wrote a whole book. They wrote a whole book, and then the publisher decided, yeah, we're not going to release it. And since she signed the contract and they own the rights, her whole book that she wrote all on her own is locked away in the publisher's safe somewhere, never to see the light of day. And she has nothing to do except move on, which sucks. Always read the fine print when you're doing creative stuff like that. So, if in a studio environment, a lot of times, not a lot of times, but a good chunk of the time, they won't release the clips until the whole project is done, just to make sure there's no leaks. Now, how do you get your clips from the studios? You just ask them, and then they'll send them to you. So renders surely help your shot stand out, but it's not necessary. Definitely not. Recruiters want to see the quality of your reel, not how it looks. Yeah. So, and this was a question earlier, I believe. Let me. Yeah, is it true that you should always use renders for reels and never playblast? No, not at all. Most animation reels are going to be playblasts, and that's fine. Animation recruiters are looking for your animation skills, not your rendering skills. They don't care about rendering at all. The only time a recruiter would like go, oh, you know, this animator is way better because they rendered their shot versus this one because theirs is a playblast, is if they don't know what they're talking about in terms of animation. A good animation recruiter is hiring you for your animation skills, not how pretty the render looks. So if you don't know, excuse me, I don't know what's wrong with my throat today. If you don't know how to render, that's fine. Don't worry about it. Simple playblast. And we've done demos on the stream here on how to just make a playblast look really pretty without rendering at all, just using the viewport tools. And you can get really nice lighting, some shines on the eyes, all of that cool stuff with no rendering. So yeah, if you don't want to go into that, don't waste your time. It's not necessary. Let's see. Any other questions? I think I missed a few. If I did miss any questions, feel free to repost them, and I'd definitely love to answer them. Okay. Oh, would you say it's a good idea to apply to jobs even if you know you won't get accepted, but just to get the company to notice you? I'd say it depends. It depends on many different things. The biggest one is going to be, well, there's a few different ones. One of them is, sorry, I think I missed, okay, let me answer that right after this. So in terms of applying to a job even though you're not ready, I won't say don't do it, because you never know. Sometimes you'll apply to a job and maybe you're not ready for that one, but they'll go, oh, you know, I really like your work. We're actually looking for a junior animator to come in. You want to go for that position as well? Or instead? Sure. So you never know what can happen. So I won't say no. But what I would try to avoid is applying for a job that you are vastly underqualified for. So let's kind of pick an extreme example here. Let's say they're opening a supervising animator position, and you are freshly out of school and you apply to that. Don't do that. A supervising animator is someone who has many years of experience working on an animation team and knows how to lead the team and knows how to talk with the directors and all of that stuff and get the project going. If you're fresh out of school, you're not going to have any of that experience. So if you apply to that, it just kind of shows that you don't know what you're talking about and that you don't know what you're applying for. It shows a lack of research on your part. When you apply to a position, studios expect you to know what you're applying to. You don't just apply to studios and just kind of go, apply, done, haha. Because if they phone you and go, hey, this is Ubisoft and we want you to work on our video game. What do you know about our company? And what games do you like that we do? And you go, Ubisoft. Oh, wait, give me 1 second, Google. Oh, they worked on, these games. Oh, yeah, I definitely like Prince of Persia. Yes, that's the one I like. No, do your research on the studios you apply to. Know who you're applying to. Know what they've worked on. Because if they phone you, they're going to expect that. And vice versa, when you're applying for a position, don't just apply blindly. Because if they're looking for an animator with a certain set of skills and you don't meet any of those criteria, that just shows them that you didn't do any research and you're just applying randomly. So if you're vastly underqualified, I would say don't post, because it just shows that you're not knowledgeable yet. Now, with that said, if you're slightly underqualified and it's like, I don't quite need it, but I'll give it a try. Sure. Because again, you never know if maybe they're looking for juniors as well. But on top of that, it gives you, like you mentioned earlier, it makes them notice you. It's like, oh, okay, this person's not quite ready yet. Okay, we'll put them aside. Now, when you do this, the next step is that you have to work hard. You have to work hard to update your reel so that the next time you submit it, you show how much you improved. So you show at the beginning, like, oh, here, I applied for the job. Their work isn't quite ready. Nah, let's pass up on them. And then maybe again 6 months later, a year later, they have another position. You post it again, but this time, you spent this whole year prepping for this time, this opportunity, and they see that you're real and go, whoa! I remember this person's work. We passed up on it before, but now, in a year, their skills are like twice as good as it was before. Whoa! If they can learn this fast in a year, what could they do in another year? Let's maybe put them on the team and see. If you're going to apply to a position that you don't quite qualify for, you want to make sure that you work hard to improve your reel by the next time. So it puts a deadline on yourself in a sense. Because if you apply again a year later with the same reel and it's still not that great, now you've done the opposite where, oh sure, they noticed you, but now they noticed you for the wrong reasons. Instead of noticing how well you can work, they notice, oh, they're not really increasing their skills. Let's just ignore them. So it's a risk. I won't say don't do it, but do it with that kind of thought in mind that you want to keep improving. So hopefully that helps. Now, I think I missed, should I learn about rigging as an animator? You don't have to. Should you? If you want. It's really up to you. I know a lot of animators who know next to nothing about anything outside of the animation tools, because that's not their job to do any of that other stuff. Now, does it mean that you shouldn't? No. The more you know, the more it helps. But this goes for anything. So as an animator, if that's your career goal, there's a lot of side opportunities that you can use to learn and improve your skills. So for example, you could learn rigging, you could learn dynamics, so simulations, things like that. All of these will help with your animation. But you could also learn gesture drawing and figure drawing, anatomy, sculpting. You could learn lighting and rendering. All of these kind of different avenues help you to do animation in different ways. You don't have to learn all of them. You don't have to learn any of them. They're just extra skills that can help. So it's really up to you the way you want to become an animator. Now, this also changes depending on if you want to be a tech animator or a VFX animator or any of the other kind of side animator positions, which might require a little bit more knowledge on rigging and modeling and that kind of stuff. So it really just depends. If you're interested in it, definitely give it a shot. I've done some rigging before and it's a lot of fun. Now, here's another question. When you're working on your personal shots, don't think about it going in your reel. Enjoy the process and have a great time doing it. It's not a question. Your shot will sing because you enjoy the process and it will show. Exactly. Then think about where it will fit in your reel. I can always tell when someone enjoyed animating their shot. Exactly. So there's two sides to this. One is definitely enjoy your shot. If you're just doing a shot for the sake of doing a shot for your reel, and it's like, okay, I need to do a shot for the reel, and I need to do a subtle shot, and that's the only thing I can do because that's what I'm missing in my reel, and you're only doing it for that reason, it's not gonna be as nice as something that you're passionate about. I want to do this shot. I've got this idea and I've just got to animate this. This is going to be the best idea. I'm going to have so much fun with it. Do that idea. That's going to be better. With that said, as a student, when you're first getting your reel out there, it can be helpful to figure out what you need for your reel and use that as a kind of a springboard to find animation ideas of shots that you would love to do. So for example, I need a subtle shot. Well, what if I do this? I need a subtle shot, but I also need it to be very cartoony. Or like I need a cartoony shot and I need a subtle shot. Oh, how can I mix that? Maybe I have a character who starts off very subtle. They're just little thinking, and then something scares them, and then you get into this big, huge, cartoony reaction. Well, oh, how could I do that? Or, for example, if you've seen Hotel Transylvania, there's a lot of scenes where the characters are just standing absolutely still, and it's only their eyes moving very subtly. And then they go into this cartoony motion. How can you do that? Suddenly, you use those ideas of what your reel needs and start coming up with new ideas. But you're not doing it just because the reel demands it. You're doing it as a way of coming up with ideas. Ideas that you will love and love doing. So that is a very good note there from Super Friendly Sam. And gotta take a sip. I think if you apply once and then keep working on your skills and apply again, the animation supervisor may notice your progress. Yeah, definitely. They notice progress. So this is where if you apply, you want to make sure to keep working on your stuff, and when you apply again, it has been updated. Don't apply with the same reel, or else, unless it's like only like 2 or 3 months between applications, maybe that could be okay. But anything more, you should ideally have at least one new shot to your reel. As someone who uses a different method than the construction method for drawing things in 3D and perspective, will I have to change that up for animation? Not necessarily. Most studios have a kind of workflow that they prefer, so you might have to kind of work with that. And it also depends on the director. So for example, in animation, there's a few different ways we can do blocking. A lot of us, when we start learning animation, is we do stepped blocking, where you have a pose and then it holds, and then on the next key it moves forward, holds, moves forward, holds. It's in step mode. Or you could do it in spline mode, where it just keeps moving all the time. Some animation studios like to present their work in stepped blocking because it's a bunch of animators looking at it and it makes sense. You don't see all the things that Maya is doing, and it makes it easier to focus on the poses that the animator is creating. I said animator, weird there. That the animator is creating. But if you're working in VFX, for example, a lot of VFX shows are created with directors who are not animators or have never worked with animation before. And if you show stepped blocking to someone who's not familiar with the animation process, it just looks unfinished. It looks like something is totally wrong with this shot, so why are you showing it to me right now? So we have to change our workflow. We have to submit our shots in splines so that the director can understand what they're seeing and get a better idea of what the final product will be. So it does change. Our workflows might have to change depending on the studio, depending on who's looking at it. Is that a bad thing? Not at all. It's actually good to learn different workflows. So, yeah. And the same goes for modeling or rigging or anything like that. We might have to change our... I don't do that kind of stuff, but just knowing a little bit of it, like there's different workflows you can use to block a character in. You might have to change that depending on what stages you have to show your work. If you're only showing your kind of later stage work, well, the way you get to that doesn't really matter. So it's really dependent. Where are some places tutorials to start rigging? Ooh, that I'm not sure. I haven't done rigging in a long time, and a lot of it has changed since I did it. So my best suggestion would be YouTube. Find the rigging method you want to use. So for example, if you're using Blender, they have a totally different rigging system than Maya, than 3ds Max, than any other program. So find the one that you want to learn, and then just find YouTube videos on there. And usually you can find some really good ones. let's see. Catching up with the... I'm scared of getting a job. That first job is very unnerving because, and this is something most people will tend to go through, is that feeling of, I'm applying for a job and am I going to be ready? Are they going to just find out that I don't know what I'm doing? Am I just going to embarrass myself at the job? What do I do? Oh, like, there's all of these insecurities that come into applying for your first job. That is normal. I would say most people have that when they first start out. Totally normal. One thing I would keep in mind is that if they're hiring you, especially if you're new to the animation industry, they're going to train you. There's going to be a training period. They don't expect you to be amazing right off the start and just like matching everyone at the studio on day one. No, they're going to train you. A lot of times they will put you under another animator and basically have them as a mentor who will be there to help you with a pipeline, to help you with what tools they use, how to get the style of animation that they're going for, all of that stuff. So you will have a lot of help when you get into the industry, especially when you first start out. So I'm not going to say don't be scared because it's still pretty scary, but keep in mind that you will have help along the way. You're not going to be alone in this, and you're not going to be just thrown into the deep end and, well, sink or swim. And if you fail, it's going to mark you forever. No, it won't. They'll understand. Even if you're like, maybe they hire you and you're not keeping up quite. It's not a mark against you. It just means that you need to practice a little bit more and then try again later. That's it. Let's see. I kept my old link to my reels from years ago to show I improved. Do recruiters care about that, or should I remove them? Most recruiters I know don't really care. They don't really care to look at old work. They're really just interested in what you can do now. That depends though. Honestly, some recruiters might be interested in seeing your older work, but for me personally, I just like to keep the one link to my reel, so that way I know that recruiters only ever have my newest work. Now, if you want to just kind of post like, okay, I update the link and then let's repost the old work as an old thing, yeah, that's fine. You don't have to remove that. If they look at it, they'll look at it. If they don't, then no worries. Let's see. What is a good way to fix knee popping in a walk cycle with a Steward rig? The big one is make sure the feet and the hips are working correctly. Usually if you're seeing really big knee popping on any rig, regardless of the rig, it means that there's something not quite right with one of the feet or with the hips. So you want to double check those, make sure your arcs are correct, make sure the spacing is correct. Really dive into that. And sometimes it can just be a little bit of like rotate Z on the hips, that side to side of the hips, that just needs to be adjusted a little bit more, like a little translate Z, that forward back, a little translate Y, a nudge up and down. Once you've double checked all of that and used those to minimize the knee pops as much as possible, as a last resort, or just to fix the tiny little knee pops and knee wiggles, you can use these stretch controls on the legs. You can find that on the Steward rig is the square control under the foot. There's a stretch attribute for the legs. And you can use those to minimize the knee pops. You really only want to use that as a last resort though, because if you use it too much, you're going to see it. And the knees are going to look like rubber, and it's just going to look... It's not going to look as bad, but it's going to look weird, and it's not going to feel very stable. It'll look like he has rubber bones. Let's see. Going back to resumes, I was just updating mine, but animation related, I've only got AM. I have some vaguely artist related internships and volunteering. Instagram managing a news broadcaster, film festival volunteering. Nice, that's actually really good stuff. That's what's vaguely related. I'm considering taking it out. But if I do, my resume will have will be 3 lines long. You don't have to do that. So do I have? Okay, so this is where you can use a little bit of resume magic on your resume, especially when you're first starting out. A lot of you, when you first apply to an animation position, you're not going to have many things to put on there. You're just going to have, I went to Animation Mentor, for example. Hey, that's great. Well, how do you make it look like you're a better hire? Well, for example, let's say for me, when I graduated Animation Mentor, I had no animation experience. Animation Mentor was the first time I ever animated anything, period. So, how do I make my resume more interesting than 1 line? Well, there's a few different things you can do. One is your experience. If you have experience doing anything else, it can still apply. So, for example, before Animation Mentor, I ran my own business, and I was a baker. Totally unrelated. And the business I had was I used to sell Wacom tablets, which in my area, back in those days, they didn't have them. So Cameron and I started selling those so that people around here could actually get Wacom tablets. It was so hard to find them back in those days. So selling tablets and baking and web design, really connected there, but you can still use it. So for example, baking, I was the head baker. Both Cameron and I were head bakers at a bakery, which meant we had to deal with not just the baking process, but ordering all the bread, stock management, all of this kind of stuff. Well, when you go into your resume, you don't have to just put, oh, I was a baker. I baked bread. Yeah. You could put that like, okay, head baker at whatever place. And you can put like in charge of, how did I put it? Actually, do I have my resume here? Probably not. I think it was something like in charge of product management and like things like that. So it shows that you know how to deal with management. I also dealt with like employees. So how do you you put that like in charge of employee management, things like that. As a business, I had to be in charge of helping customers. So you put something like that, like owner of whatever company and customer relations, things like that. It shows that you can work with people. So you find these ways of taking any position and find the thing that would be applicable to an animation position. So for example, even working at, let's say, McDonald's, and you are frying fries, you're just making fries. Well, how can you use that? So you put your experience, McDonald's, and you were, how could we phrase that? In charge of product quality. Something like that. You can word it in a way that you're not lying. You never want to lie on your resume. But you are showing that whatever job you had, even working on at like team member, like something like that, it shows that you were able to work on a team, that you were able to work with a group of people and you did it well. So even if it's not 100% related, it still shows experience with working on a team, working with other people, working with management, dealing with management, things like that. So the things that you listed, definitely you can use on your resume. You might have to try and figure out exactly how you want to word it, but yeah, definitely useful. Like if I could use baker on my resume and it worked, you can definitely use those.